Well, to talk about all of that and more, we've invited back our panel, who we spoke to last week when the first snippets of the interview were being released. Let me reintroduce them. They are the comedian Gina Yashere, who's in Los Angeles, and we've got the lawyer and activist Dr Shola Mos Shogbamimu, and the actor and podcast host Kelechi Okafor. Very good to see you all again. Thank you for joining me. Well, it has been broadcast, and let's start with you, Gina, because it was broadcast, of course, in the United States where you are. And when we talked last week, we knew it was going to make waves. Did it surpass your expectations?
I mean, look, I'm glad they spilled all the tea. I was surprised at how much information came out, but not shocked. We knew what was coming. I was just hoping that they wouldn't hold back on any of the information that they were going to give out, and they held nothing back except the names. I would love to if they'd have dropped a few names, but you know, I can understand at the end of the day, it's Prince Harry's family, and he doesn't want to completely burn every bridge. But I'm not completely surprised as well. We knew that there was racism. The royal, everything, the heritage, the royal family, and all Britain's wealth is built on the backs of colonialism and slavery and people theft. So why would people be surprised that it's still trickling down and it's still running right through the veins of the royal family? It wasn't a surprise to me. It was, you know, I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad that they completely let everything out in the open. And now you've got people calling them liars and how dare they talk about the Queen in such a way. A lot of bluster. A lot of people are coming up with bluster, trying to cover up the actual issues. Everybody's more furious at Harry and Meghan for talking about the racism than being angry at the actual racism. They're more angry about them talking about it than the actual racism itself. And that's just the attitudes. and it's always the same. We get gaslit. Whenever we talk about racism, we get accused of being racist, or we get accused of playing victims, or being accused of dropping the race card. What is this race card? I hate when people bring up this whole race card business. It's a term that's been invented by racists to shut down debate. There's no such thing as a race card. When you talk about anti-Semitism, nobody pulls out a Jew card. So why is this language being used when it comes to black people? But yeah, I'm not surprised, but I'm glad it's all out in the open for everybody to discuss.
Well, Shola, what do you make of that? I mean, it is a jaw-dropping claim that within the royal family there was a discussion about the colour of the unborn child's skin, that he might be too brown or something like that. I mean, does that ring true for you? Because Gina's right. Some people are saying it must have been a misunderstanding, or Meghan and Harry must have been exaggerating or something like that. This is the 21st century, not the 19th century.
I'm sorry, misunderstanding. Did they misunderstand my foot from my hand? How do you misunderstand that? Nobody has that kind of conversation. Nobody says, well, I have concerns that your child might be darker and what that might mean. That's pure racism. This is the problem with the way we normalize racism in this country. Look, I watched that interview and I left feeling one strong message. The royal family let Harry and Meghan down. That's one. Two, when I heard about the, dark tone concerns, I had to ask out loud, who the hell does the royal family think they are? I'm sorry, where do you get off to continue to stigmatize black people and even a child of a mixed heritage? You're stigmatizing that child because of that child's proximity to blackness. Clearly, nobody's told them that blackness is beauty. The point is this. It is unacceptable. They must be held to account. Somebody must be held to account. There has to be an evolution from this kind of thinking. And I can only imagine what Meghan must have felt like. And the fact that she couldn't speak to anybody, it was heartbreaking, especially when she talked about suicidal thoughts. How can you share? How do you go to people and say, I need help? This is 2021. How do you go to people and say, I need help? And when I say 2021, I'm talking about recent history, right? Because she must have said it a few years ago. And then you say to them, stiff upper lip. We've all been through it. The royal family accepted an independent, biracial woman, wealthy, educated, and they thought the best way to deal with her was to break her so that she would fit the mold. That is wrong. And it's not lost on me that this is International Women's Day. Racism should not surprise us. The royal family is an institution like every other institution. This is why I had to say earlier today, somebody needs to speak up about this. I hear Harry talk fondly about his grandmother, but please explain to me, what kind of grandmother would be so close to Harry, but yet not use her power and influence to protect him? I don't understand that. Or that the palace will do what they can to protect Prince Andrew, but do nothing for Harry and Meghan. Someone needs to speak to the Queen.
Okay, Shola, I just want to get Kelechi's view on this, and in particular that point, Kelechi, that Shola's making about a response from the royal family, from Buckingham Palace. They haven't on this bombshell claim, but they've always said that the palace, the royal family, are colourblind, by implication, and that something like this, a conversation like this, couldn't really have happened.
Well, that's interesting that the monarchy would consider themselves, the royal family would consider themselves to be colourblind, because they definitely saw colours that weren't white when they were happy to colonise all of the other countries that, you know, have been impacted by their imperial bloodlust. I just think that anybody who claims to be colorblind, they need to open their eyes, and they need to open their eyes very, very well. Like, we are tired of that narrative. We are tired of the lies, basically. When Meghan mentioned that she would cry while breastfeeding, as a new mother who's running a pole dance studio, I'm a podcaster, a writer, all of these things, I have also sat and cried while breastfeeding from the sheer pressure of all of the things that I do. So to know that Meghan was going through something similar, on top of that, she had the obstacles of the press, of the tabloids on her back as well, without the support of the royal family, I think it's disgusting. And I think it just goes to speak to the anti-blackness that's inherent in the entire institution.
And let's go back down the line, so to speak. You're appearing in front of me in your wonderful threesome there. And staying then with you, Kelechi, and this issue, we've all touched on it, this issue of mental health. Again, it's something members of the royal family, senior members of the royal family, talk about an awful lot, about raising awareness, how important it all is. Yet then we hear this. Can it really be so?
It can definitely be so, because when we look at the neurosis of racism as it exists and how it is pervasive in our society and how it helps the construct of whiteness, it means that one thing can be true for a certain group of people and not true for another group of people. We cared about mental health when it was about white people with white skin, but when we're talking about the mental health of a black woman or a woman that has proximity to blackness, she's got a black mother, suddenly we don't care so much. Harry was allowed to have the Invictus Games to address the mental well-being of those who have been, who have fought for this country. And that was taken away from him the moment that he said he wanted to kind of step back from certain duties. So I just think that the whole thing feels extremely wild. And it's no surprise that in the UK, black women are 4 times more likely to die during childbirth in comparison to white women. And mixed race, biracial women are 3 times more likely to die during childbirth in comparison to white women. What that is telling us is that there is a protection that's afforded to white people that's not afforded to people who are non-white or who are not wholly white. And that is what Meghan, no matter how light her skin is, no matter how American she is, that's what she's experiencing.
And Shola, well, let me put it this way to you on this issue of mental health. I mean, quite clearly, as Meghan described it there, and she's touched on it in the past, they broke her. She came here to England, she tried to fit in, she just couldn't and has had to leave with all the costs she described there for her mental health. Do you think it was an element of deliberate action by the royal palaces here, by Buckingham Palace, or was it just because it is the way it is?
Let me give you the simple answer. Yes. All you have to do is look back at history. Look at what happened with Diana. They made Diana, they gaslit Diana every single opportunity. They made her feel like there was something wrong with her. What they did with Meghan was definitely to silently, just make her, through silence, quieter, to shut in her, to make her feel like she's nothing. That's why I'm asking why and how in this time. In this time where women are more educated, women are career women, that they may be made to go through this machine. Why is it the woman that has to be broken? Why isn't the royal family evolving? I think it's particularly painful. And let me just say this. When you made mention of the point of colorblind, I am sick and tired of the royal family and the British government using the Commonwealth as a prop. Every single time you talk about race, they say oh no, royal family is very supportive of the Commonwealth. Then why hasn't the royal family married into the Commonwealth? If you're so supportive, if you feel so strongly that we're all one family, marry into the Commonwealth. But nada, that's not going to happen. The first biracial woman to marry into the direct line of descendants of Queen Elizabeth is being excluded. Her son is being excluded. You heard Meghan yesterday say that they were changing the convention so that he would not get a title. Please, people. What kind of wickedness is that? It's bad enough that a woman with suicidal thoughts is not supported. But then you take that hate, that bias, that prejudice to a child that happens to also be a descendant. Makes no sense to me.
Okay, listen, I'm only interrupting because we're nearly out of time. I knew it would happen this way, but I've got to get back to Gina. And Gina, got to hear from you about how it's landed in the United States. Here in the UK, you may be aware there was some instant polling. The majority feeling that it was inappropriate of Harry and Meghan to do this interview. It may shift when they get to see it all. What are people saying there?
In America, I think their eyes have been opened because they always thought that England was so genteel and racism didn't exist because the Brits were so good at hiding it. So now the doors have been opened and black people in America are going, oh, wow, British black people are suffering the same way that we do, the same level of microaggression. Exactly. It was just hidden much better. This whole colorblind, this thing is ridiculous. If they were colorblind, why would they be discussing the color of the baby's skin? Do you think when William and Kate were having their baby, they discussed whether the baby was going to be white, lily white, super white, transparent white? Oh, no, they didn't. They discussed the color of the baby's skin because the baby was going to be black in some way, and they were worried what level of blackness was going to occur.